construction committee meeting. Roll call, please.
Steve Brenner.
Here.
Keith Durr will be absent. Jen Reiner. Here. Fred Vogel will be absent. And Dave Reeser.
Here.
Okay. What's that? You have four. Oh, you got three. Any public comment today? Yes.
I have two issues I want to bring up. One is, and it has been brought up last time, the situation with the stairs and I think I forgot what it was called, not Lowers Lane, whatever I think it's called. The steps and the walkway, the public walkway down to Old Wyomissing Road are in the same situation. And the difficulty here seems to be of understanding who's responsible for that cleanup. Fact is, it's impractical. It's filled with leaves, which are now wet. Stairs are slippery. Some repairs were made to that walkway, but now what looks like a private tree, because there's no public tree over there, is pushing the walkway aside, and we keep having this problem, and we have no clarity who is in charge and who's supposed to fix that. It's a public walkway. Bottom line is, this is a fact and it's impractical. The question is, the reason I'm asking you is, we need clarity. We need the job done. I don't care who's fixing it. Okay? The other thing that I've noticed, and I was not at that's the second part, I was not at the refuse meeting, but I watched the video. And I noticed confusion that keeps repeating itself. The fact that the instruction is for the trash cans to be placed at the curb. That's confusing. The curb has two sides. One is on the carriageway, or the street side, or you call it what you want, motorway, and the other one is on the sidewalk side. Common sense would dictate that you don't put your trash can in the street, because the street is for cars. And the drivers are not supposed to lift cans, move them, whatever. It would also make sense that Mascaro does not return the cans to the street. They might be by the curb, but they're still in the carriageway. So I think one of the problems for this is the clarity of instructions. Let's speak English. PennDOT defines it as a carriageway. Let's use PennDOT definition. Instructing the hauler and the residents to put it at the curbside only invites for confusion. Doesn't serve any purpose. They can say, yeah, I put it at the curbside on the street. So what? So I think we need clarity there. I think we need clarity on the stairs, which are impracticable at this moment. Okay? Thank you so much.
Any other public comment today? Hearing none, we'll move right into the zoning codes report.
The report's pretty self-explanatory. A few updates that I have: 1634 Far Road. Chris's office was able to reach a settlement agreement with the property owners. The civil suit has been withdrawn and payment has been made to the borough for $1,500 to cover our legal costs incurred as well as court costs for filing the civil suit, and I believe they've submitted all permit requirements.
Yes.
So we're good on that one. 1554 Penn Avenue, which has been on the report forever, sold a few weeks ago. So I would hope that means we'll see progress at the property in the very near future. The hearing for 1743 Reading Boulevard was rescheduled at the owner's request for February of 2024. And just an update on the Berkshire Mall property, there was a conversation last week between Glenn Kraft and Jim McCarthy about potentially requiring the owners to get a geotech in to look at the parking lot because of the reoccurring sinkhole problems that they've been having. So that conversation will continue.
So they're still open?
The sinkholes have been repaired, but there's probably been 7 to 10 sinkholes that have opened up on that property in the past 18 months, which alludes to there being a bigger problem going on, whether it's limestone or it's issues with the underground storm drainage system. Jim looked and said he doesn't see any evidence based off the utility account there's a water leak. So that makes me think there might be other issues happening, like what did near the Sears Auto, there was a pretty large size sinkhole about the size of this table that opened up there last year. The storm drain pipe underneath the parking lot had rotted out. So if it happened there, there's a likelihood it may be happening elsewhere.
Didn't we require a developer to video the stormwater system, that development down by the Walmart?
The Walmart shopping center was required to video their lines and then do the repairs in there because it kept having recurring. We had a standalone sinkhole ordinance that says you're supposed to do that investigation, send a report into the borough reviews it, either concurs or says you need to do more investigation, and then you do the work, not just do it.
Actually, that's not what that ordinance says. That ordinance says that we have the right to, you within 30 days of being notified by the borough of a sinkhole on your property have to repair it. If you don't repair it within 30 days, we have the right to come onto the property and do it for you. But in that case, because of the same thing, there were multiple sinkholes that kept opening up. And I think there was some question by that property owner as to whether it was our system or their system, so they wanted to televise it.
I think we saw the borough's approval of the repair plan in that ordinance, something.
No, they just
No?
have to repair it. It's
No?
pretty simple language. They have to repair it to the borough's satisfaction. So I mean, typically,
Well, I think
Kraft or
I think I
Jim,
read that as approval.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we should talk about that more, but I do think that we have the right to have some involvement in that process.
does anybody have any questions on the report otherwise?
Any other questions for the zoning codes report? Okay, hearing none. Fourth and Oley pump station. Anything new besides what we did go here at the bottom?
They're basically the same. Plus this. So we, council had asked us to try and get some budgetary numbers together. I guess that was at the last council. No, it was the last infrastructure. We're doing the upgrades. It's called Fourth and Oley, but essentially everyone recalls the Fourth and Oley station gets flow from the Wynnewood station. So as we've been approached by different developers for increasing flows in the area, we have some of them which would flow just to the Fourth and Oley station, which would be the island apartments next to the Wyomissing Conference Center by the Park Road Bridge, as well as the Felino apartment buildings on Van Reed would only go to Fourth and Oley. And then we've been approached by the developer for redeveloping the unit Reading. Their flows would go to the Wynnewood pump station and then also go to the Fourth and Oley station. And the Palmer expansions, or renovations, I guess would be technically, internal renovations now they're not expanding the footprint currently, they would go to Wynnewood and Fourth and Oley. So we call it the Fourth and Oley, but I just wanted to be clear to everyone, it's really two pump stations that we're dealing with. So real rough, we around $1.1 million for each pump station to upgrade them to 1,000 gallons a minute, which should provide flow for all of those proposed developments that we've been recently seem real and viable and that they're proceeding forward. Plus around 150 additional EDUs for future expansion are in both of those numbers. That was kind of, we probably talked before about there'd be there'd be a point where the pump station would be the same to build it for X as Y, so that's kind of the Y gets us 150 additional EDUs in Wynnewood and Fourth and Oley. The cost of both of them is around $1,000,001. One's 1,070,000, one's 1.14 million. At this point, I mean, this is really rough stuff. It's around 1.1 million, is as close as I would say, at this point, per pump station, for each. They both require total redo, bigger wet wells, all new electrical systems, emergency power system upgrades, but basically nothing's staying except the driveways. We will reuse the old wet well for capacity, but we're adding a second wet well because it's not big enough. So it's a pretty big undertaking as we delve into this. If your Boulevard pump station was 704,000, but didn't have any wet well work, we were able to reuse all the wet wells. It's there, just clean it. And the pump package, for the Boulevard station, this excludes like the buildings and all the site work, was 380,000, and the package for these two are 450,000. So we're just kind of put it in magnitude where the pumping side of things, that's pump controls and all the piping that goes into that.
So are all the developers involved in these projects on board with these numbers?
These numbers have been in existence for about 17 minutes.
So that they have,
I literally got the numbers I was waiting for from the precaster and the pump manufacturer at 10:58 this morning. I was supposed to have them on Saturday, but they didn't get them to me this morning.
so they're all in the dark on these numbers at the moment.
They think they're gonna be around 800,000, because we said that, Berkshire was 705. Figure it's a year later, it's gonna be 800 if the scope's the same. But as we delved into it last week, we realized they both need bigger wet wells, which we didn't have to do at Berkshire, which is really the cost differential. And then with the borough, obviously has to, there was a bunch of different scenarios we talked about before. There was the one of, does the borough buy some existing capacity and reserve it for future developers or even expansion of existing businesses in that area, may not be a new development, just an expansion, and then sell that to them at that time. Do these developers pay for the whole thing? And then do they get reimbursed in the future when somebody else would expand or need that? They're obviously more that end of the table type decisions there. I got to the numbers that you asked for, which are actually bigger than I was anticipating back then, but once I got into it last week and realized we needed bigger wet wells at both. And we're gonna keep the existing ones to keep them smaller. We also have some money in there, we'll need right away from Wynnewood Apartments, because it will be outside of the easement we have there, so there's, on that one, unfortunately, when I was doing these so fast, the one for 1.14 is Fourth and Oley. We put 17,500 in for additional right-of-way acquisition from Wynnewood and the legal to obtain that. I don't know how.
So is there a possibility for an equitable sharing agreement between the three projects? Or do you just go at them one at a time and see what deal you get with each one?
I think you almost have to go with the three of them.
Well, it's gonna depend how many units they're proposing with their cost sharing portion
Well,
is.
I'm asking that because that would mean if it's $3 million, it isn't one more than one, it could be
Well,
1.5.
For example, if you looked at it and said, okay, the Felino project and the Boiler House Island one, they only flow through Fourth and Oley. Palmer and Enid Redding flow through both. So now when you're, it would be up to council and legal to determine, but I would think you would, if you only flow through the one station, they wouldn't be responsible to upgrade the second station, but the users that flow through both would obviously have to upgrade both.
Does Wynnewood then go to Fourth and Oley?
Yeah, so
So
Wynnewood,
it goes through Wynnewood and then over to Fourth and Oley? It's
Yeah.
not like they're going some's here and some's here?
no,
Oh, okay.
everything that goes to Wynnewood gets pumped right over the hill. I was crazy, is that Douglas or Windsor where it dumps in?
Windsor.
At Windsor, and then it runs gravity all the way down Fourth Street, makes the turn at Fourth and Oley, goes right down to the pump station, and then that pump station pumps it up to the top of the Park Road Bridge. and then it flows gravity on this side of the Park Road Bridge down to our interceptors.
And at 1.1 million, is that just covering the increase with the properties, or is that like extra?
That has about 150 extra
What is-
future
what does that mean?
connections. Well, like 150 homes, so
Okay.
equivalent to you measure sewer in EDUs, equivalent daily units, equivalent dwelling units, sorry. And that's a one single family home, so when we have a business come in, we figure out how many equivalent to a single residential they would be. Like the inn at Reading is looking at needing like 300 or 400. We have all that in the numbers. And Felino's 210, the apartments are 50 some, 56. Palmer, we don't know now, they need some additional 10. They're a smaller player in the thing, maybe 8 to 10.
So how many, again, it says, how many more EDUs are we getting by doing all this? Total.
210.
Total, for including every, we are getting,
Whatever we get for that couple $1 million.
we're getting around 1,000 EDUs. Additional over what's flowing today to the Fourth and Oley
How
pump
much is
station.
going there today?
Today? Well, today, Fourth and Oley gets 170,000 gallons a day. Wynnewood gets 120,000 gallons a day. So we'll be looking at Fourth and Oley's gonna be around 400,000 a day now, and then Wynnewood would be around 300,000, 325,000.
Going from roughly 300 to 710, something like that.
I'm sorry?
You're going from roughly 290 to 710.
Well, they're not added together. The 170 of Fourth and Oley includes 120 from Wynnewood. They're not adding on top of one another. But yeah, you're going for Fourth and Oley, you're going from 170 up to 400,000. That would include the additional capacity that we have in there that could be used for other future growth.
And which would make us more attractive to other.
Yeah, because the worst thing you can do is spend all the money to upgrade a pump station, and somebody comes in and we make it right for that capacity, and then somebody comes down, and now we're spending 80% of what we just spent to add this little increment. And that's why we went to 50 horsepower pumps on both of the stations. In fact, the stations are almost identical size-wise because of how high and long the force mains are. But 50 horsepower was looked to be the good number to go to keep us from getting in really large emergency generators, and the next size up, electric services, keeping us everything under 800 amp electric services, so we weren't getting into something where we were buying a lot heavier power. That's kind of how we came up with it. That looked like a good number to say there was this little extra. And as we refine it, that 150 is probably gonna go up. I mean, it's probably more like 200, but with the limited time, we could only get it down in so much detail. It was really more of like scribble than calculation.
But that 150 to 200, we think is gonna be enough for any future endeavors? We don't give it away.
I mean, unless you have a crystal ball.
Yeah, I mean, if
I can't think there would be other properties redeveloped over and above that in the next 20 years, but I mean, we also never really thought we were gonna see this level of development.
One that never materialized, that I always remember we thought was gonna materialize, is when they put in the North Wyomissing Boulevard interchange there off the bypass. I said, boy, this is now gonna be a commercial corridor with Wawa and this and that never really happened. Still a Fazio's garage there and houses. It never turned to commercial, you know?
no, the bigger piece would be the A to Z vacuum and all, but that doesn't flow to the pump station, so, I mean, that's probably a bigger unknown, but that bypasses both stations, so that's not generating any flow here.
The bypasses, what's it bypass, where it go?
It goes by gravity down and around and through Reed Road and.
Not all of it, but the majority of it.
All right, so I'm sorry, go ahead.
the front couple pad sites, A to Z Vacuum, where the hibachi place was, the medical marijuana store, that flows to the Fourth and Oley pump station, but the bigger part of the property and all that rear flows down to Reed Street.
So explain to me again, we're talking about, how much would this be in upgrades total? If we did them
2.2.
$2.2 million. How much of that is recoverable and when is it recoverable?
Well, all of it is recoverable eventually.
Yes.
The question
Okay,
is
that-
the upfront cost, and if I did my math right, about 85% of this, 850 EDUs are for the developers, is
Right.
that correct?
Yes.
150 for reserve by Borough.
Which we would sell
So-
later down the road.
That 850 EDUs, I think we'd have to charge $2,200 per EDU in order for the developers to get the upgrade that they need. So, again, I think, I would like to see the borough have control of the project, and so, just collecting cash up front from the developers and the borough then doing the project is more appealing to me than to have the developer front the project. So, I guess that's the way I would approach it, is to tell the developers it costs $2,200 per EDU. You gotta pay that money up front, and after we receive your money, we'll do the project. That would be my suggestion, how to approach the issue with the developers.
And they would expect all this to begin next year?
Well, we have an agreement with them about when we would do the work and when we would project that it would be available. I mean, there's usually a little bit of cushion, on timing, but well, I don't know what they're.
I'm just trying to avoid getting over two budgeting periods. Yeah. Money in that we didn't spend yet, or vice versa, money out.
Well, this is gonna take a year.
It's gonna take a year to permit, to design and permit this is gonna take a year, through DEP. And then you're probably looking at 6 months to get all, to get everything to be able to build the
So it's a
station.
2025 project.
2025, probably fall 2025 project that it would be online.
And when the apartments be over to lease around the same time?
Probably.
I mean, he's probably 3 to 6 months out from even getting a building permit.
So the timing is close.
We've not recorded plans, I mean, there's still a lot to do on the land development side of that in terms of the agreements,
Well,
the
they-
plans being finalized and recorded.
Well, none of them can do anything till the sewer
Yeah.
issues resolved. They can't.
Are all these developers on the same page in terms of when they'd like to complete the projects? Or
You mean,
start-
are they all on the same time schedule as one another, or?
Well,
The only one I know that has a time schedule will be the apartments at Van Reed.
Right.
The
So
rest
what
of them.
Chris said about, it would be nice if we controlled it and they all paid up front. Really, that's a wish, because if somebody's not starting for a year after somebody else starting, we can't expect them to pay $2 million for something that they're not gonna start for a year beyond the first guy.
Well, normally, if you were like other municipalities that have a reservation fee, they would pay that before the final plans approved.
Well, do we
So they
wanna
would
do
buy
that
that.
though? If this is such a great project, why hold somebody's feet to the fire to pay a bill that's not gonna come to fruition for a year beyond
The-
the timing of the money bill?
No, I think the only thing would be is if, say, one of those larger ones, like the Inn at Reading isn't gonna do the project, that significantly impacts the upgrades we need at these stations. So I think you need to have some type of agreement guarantee from, right now, we have these 4 different known property owner developers doing things. If one of them pulls out, that changes the improvement, other than Palmer, because they're such a small number. If any of the other 3 pull out, that really changes what level we need to improve these stations to.
Could they sell their rights to somebody else?
Usually, I don't recommend making that assignable in the agreement. Typically, that's a disaster when that's allowed to be transferred from, it would stay with the property. You don't wanna create a secondary stock market of EDU sales in the municipality.
What I would say
Oh, it's
is,
happened.
developers should be at risk, and what I mean by that is, developers should pay for a specific project at a specific property and have no commitment from the borough about moving EDUs.
something changes in the future, then I would say we would talk about it at that time, but I wouldn't make any promises about assignment being an option upfront.
So we're looking to make a recommendation to council to move forward with the permit on the Fourth and Oley Wynnewood pump station projects. Still trying to wrap my head around, the cost parameters to us. So at the end of the day, somewhere down the road, it'd be net neutral, I understand that.
Minus the 150 to use it.
Well, I mean, even
If you look,
including that somewhere.
yeah, if
down
you,
the road.
that's about 15%, Steve, so he said it's around 325,000 would be, if
Our
the,
risk.
would be the borough's risk.
And that wouldn't happen until, we're not starting to dig until 2025?
Right, right, I mean, yeah, the bulk of it now is
So
permitting
it's
and
a
all that.
$300,000, roughly, a $350,000 project, 2025 budget.
Yes, it will be in the 25 budget. Yeah, because you want the developer money up front to cover your design, permitting, right away, all those legal upfront costs.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Does anyone make a motion to authorize council to move forward with the borough engineer design permit and bid the Fourth and Oley and Wynnewood pump projects?
And I would make that conditioned upon receiving assurances that are legally enforceable with the developers about their financial contributions. So that would be my recommendation.
Do you agree to add that on here?
Yes.
Do you agree to second that?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I don't understand how you do that. If you have three developers going in three different directions, we're asking them to commit, sign for X numbers of hundreds of thousands of dollars now, so we can do what we want to do. And we're dealing with businessmen here that are smart enough to realize, hey, we don't even have any paperwork on this thing yet. The council's voting for this, we have to sign it, and we owe them $600,000. No idea what's going on, no plans, no timing of anything. I just think it's unrealistic. If not, at least some more thought should go into the payment structure as to when they have to make the payment to us, so we know they can guarantee. But up front, that's nuts.
Look, my concern is someone backs out of this, we put in $2.3 million worth, and then everybody pulls out, now we're left holding the bag for the whole $2.3 million.
We're doing it because they need it.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay, but
Let's
each
assume
one,
they move forward with it,
Yeah.
which
But it
I don't have
seems
any
like-
reason to think they're not, I'm not
No,
trying to say
but we're
that.
not doing it for any other reason.
but what you're saying is each one of them have to come to us with the same level of commitment. You might as well ask them for, a guarantee up front, signed personally, so we can take your wife, your house, and your car to pay the borough.
I think that's what we just decided, though, that they're gonna pay a reservation fee, right?
Yeah.
So they're all willing to do that up front.
They're gonna have to.
Wyomissing is the only municipality in Berks that I'm aware of that you don't pay a sewer and water reservation fee prior to final plan approval. We actually pay it to Whistler for capacity, for treatment capacity, but the borough doesn't have a fee. Every other municipality has a fee for water and sewer that gets paid prior to the final plan being sealed and recorded, signed and recorded.
And this is something we've been talking about for probably 2 years now. We need to implement that for this reason.
Be the
I
next-
think you just
be the next
answered
year's.
my question. So this is what we're asking from developers is not an unusual ask.
No. No.
And you're saying that other municipalities throughout the county proceed this way, we are the only ones who don't.
Right.
And part of that is-
The fee is actually the actual cost, it's not a fee plus we tell you what.
$2,200 if that's the number that it turns out.
Per unit.
Per
Well,
unit.
I mean, the fee for all the ones that have it, there's a state law, the Authorities Act, that establishes how you calculate that fee.
All right,
It's not just you don't make it up.
all right,
Um,
all right, so Paul's got to do this.
Okay.
Actually, 2,200 is not bad. That's pretty cheap, to be honest with you.
And I would also say this, it's not the only reason, this development is not the only reason we're doing this. Both of those stations, 2000, 2001, they're gonna be pushing 25 years old, just like Berkshire Boulevard. And this is on my radar a little bit for the next 5 years, they're not brand new.
point. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, so we can start that process. And we also need a motion to approve, table, or deny recommending council authorize the borough solicitor to prepare capacity reservation and cost sharing agreements for any developer that has requested the capacity.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. Progress comes at a little bit of a pain in the rear end, huh?
No pun intended.
No pun intended. that's right.
Infrastructure, that's, hey. Part of the point.
All right, Western Berks Water Authority, so we have
I
some
will
esteemed guests.
turn the comments over to Matt and Chip, who know 1,000% more than I know, so.
That's not true, Dave. You know a lot. Let me give you some good news. The repair has occurred. It has passed the pressure test, so the pipe is back in service.
Ah,
That's the good news.
I didn't know that.
So, do you want to just kind of run through kind of where we are with the request? We're going to tag team this a little bit.
Sure, we had, as you know, this project to get this pipe repaired has taken an inordinate amount of time, all right? Part of the reason for that time lag is that the Reading Area Water Authority owns the pipe across the bridge. The boroughs, signed over the interconnection, which is the meter pit that connects the Rawa pipe to the Wyomissing distribution system. So we have a contractual obligation to cost share any type of repair for the interconnection, which is the meter pit where the Reading pipe connects to the Wyomissing pipe. There's really no contract or agreement that covers the Reading pipe across the Route 12 bridge, the Warren Street bypass bridge. And their stance for a long time was, they don't need it. They knew it was broken, it's isolated, and they didn't have really any obligation to fix it for anybody because they don't see that interconnection as a customer on the other side of their line. We got some pushback from the borough to try and move it along, so we told Reading Area Water Authority that we would split the cost with them of this project. Now, I don't know if you want to take it from there.
Yeah, so, and I apologize, I know Malin has communicated to Chris all the agreements and going back to the original agreement, that flew, I think, last week. This morning I realized that the awarding of the contract was not included in that email, so I sent that this morning to all of you. The price was $158,000, it did not include materials. So we're gonna be in that $190,000 range, maybe total, waiting to get the invoice for the final materials. So we're looking at just shy of a $200,000 project. So Western Berks, the good news is Rawa, thankfully, Bill Murray knows all you very well, still loves the borough, agreed to pay half of that bill, which is great. We agreed to pay the other half. So Dave came last infrastructure meeting and asked for some type of consideration from Wyomissing to reimburse a portion of that cost to Western Berks. The reason for that is, obviously Western Berks, as you all know, was formed by the three boroughs. So if I'm absorbing that whole cost, that means Shillington and West Reading are also paying a third each of that total cost. It's not uncommon that we have done some favors in the past, but in this case, we thought it was fair to at least ask for some partial reimbursement so that the other boroughs, as part of the authority, don't share
completely that cost, and that's where the $50,000 number came from that Dave asked last week. I would strongly recommend, to Matt's point, that at some future point, the borough, with RAWA, have a conversation about who is gonna maintain this pipe moving forward. To Matt's point, it's simply an emergency connection, only used in an emergency. It doesn't tie in with any RAWA pipes on this side of the river. Unlike Penn Street, unlike other crossings where it does tie in, and Bill uses that pipe coming across the bridge to go other places in the 18th Ward or whatever. So the Buttonwood Street, Penn Street Bridge, and pipes are used other places. The Warren Street Bridge is not used anywhere, except to supply you guys for water. So I would strongly encourage you, meaning the borough, to get in contact with RAWA and come up with some type of agreement. So when future council people are sitting here, they kind of know what they're in for. We all know, we went through this with Jim, the importance of this pipe specifically to supply the Berkshire Heights area with water when there's a problem at the water treatment plant. Having your ducks in order and having that emergency supply is, in my opinion, critical, because we are very, very, very fortunate that we've got RAWA being very considerate of supplying us water. And I'll just remind you, for the first time in a long time, I think the first time ever, we were able to supply RAWA water back through our Borough Township connection. So this whole agreement of the two largest water treatment plants in the county, be able to share water capacity back and forth, is huge. So the request, once again, is looking for some type of financial reimbursement to the authority to cover this pipe specifically as a backup connection to the borough. So once again, I apologize that the bid documents weren't received until this morning, but if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer questions at this point.
So you're talking, it's gonna be up around 50,000, if half of our cost be roughly 100,000.
No, ours is probably gonna be more like, yes, I would think that's correct, yes,
Okay,
correct.
what we're doing is asking for the borough to share half of our costs, which would be roughly $50,000.
Correct.
Chip, question. Are you familiar, when this pipe was installed, what was the reason this pipe was installed by RAWA?
That's a great question. So there's a lot of history on this pipe. Jim, go ahead.
I'm not 100% positive of this, but it makes sense to me that before Western Berks Water Authority was in existence, Wyomissing purchased its water from RAWA.
That's
And
correct.
that was one of the feeds, along with Evergreen, that the borough was supplied with water from our water supplier at that time, RAWA,
The city of Reading, actually.
or the city of Reading.
And one of the original agreements, which you guys found in your archives, is that original agreement terminating that water supply contract with the borough from the city of Reading. The history then goes like this. PennDOT decided to paint the bridge, and they sandblasted the bridge, and they put holes in this pipe. It was leaking like a sieve. So PennDOT, at their own cost, then put this PVC pipe inside the existing pipe. And part of the complexity of this repair is it's hanging on the side of a bridge over a creek. And the pipe, we believe, froze inside of that carrier pipe. So in order to make this repair, they had to actually cut the carrier pipe away, remove the debris that was broken inside this carrier pipe or the old pipe, and make a repair, hanging from the side of the bridge. So that's why it is 40 feet of pipe that cost $158,000 to repair. It was not an easy job.
Just so I understand, did they simply repair the PVC or did they repair the original pipe?
The original pipe now is a carrier pipe. All that does is carry the PVC pipe. So it's C900 pipe that's in that carrier pipe. So that the new pipe that was put in by PennDOT is the new pipe. So it was a little bit small. We looked at the capacity. The smaller diameter pipe was certainly able to handle the capacity. I think back in the day, this probably was the supply for the knitting mills. It was a large quantity coming across that bridge to serve, a large portion of the borough. Because the other connection was at Evergreen, Park and Evergreen, which was much smaller.
Very expensive PVC pipe.
Yeah. It's a complexity of the work that was done, obviously.
So, is there a way to pay the 50,000 without bringing Wyomissing?
Well, there's that. Yeah, I mean, Wyomissing doesn't benefit from this, Hills doesn't benefit from this law.
Well-
Who does Western Berks serve? West Reading, Wyomissing, Shillington.
Burn Township.
Borough Township. So if it serves 4, why are we paying half of the 100? Is this only, this pipe is only helping Wyomissing, not West Reading?
That's correct.
That's right.
So how does West Reading get help if they?
They've got a Buttonwood Street pipe and a Penn
Okay.
Street pipe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shillington has a Summit Avenue pipe that connects to the Shillington system.
Okay.
You have to remember, we're talking about the whole borough of Wyomissing, not just a section of Wyomissing.
So I'm gonna disagree with you 1 second. Here's the way it helps Wyomissing Hills. If it helps Western Berks, it helps PA American, because we have interconnections with PA American to supply water to the hills if there's an emergency. So theoretically, if this pipe is connected and working, this water theoretically could make it through that pipe to the Wyomissing Hills area, through interconnections with the borough and Western Berks into the PA. It's all about intergovernmental cooperation and sharing water capacity in an emergency. That's what this is all about.
So it does benefit the whole borough.
It benefits, well, we have
Yeah, I mean,
nine,
I'm not
we have,
against it.
Potentially.
Yeah, potentially. I'm not against it. I mean, we need the water, we need water. Just trying to, we pay a lot more for our water up there in the hills.
we know, it's going up again.
We know,
Yeah, it is.
we know.
Um,
We did try, for your information, we did try just recently to try to buy it from them.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
they as much as laughed at us,
Yeah,
so.
it's what it is.
So after Western Berks came along, this pipe was basically abandoned. And the only,
It is permitted as an emergency interconnection to the borough, so it wasn't abandoned. It's on our permit, actually, it's on the borough's permit as an emergency connection to your system.
do we have an agreement to that effect? And
That's-
in that agreement, does it say anything about the maintenance of this pipe?
Every agreement I found clearly said we're not responsible for maintenance and repairs, they're not our
Well-
pipes, but
The agreements that I have reviewed, that Malin provided to me, talk about the interconnections, they don't talk about the pipe.
Right.
So there's clearly an agreement to share the cost of maintenance of the interconnection points between Western Berks and Wellman. It seems to me that there is an implied duty on the part of RAWA to keep this pipe functioning, because RAWA does have a commitment to be the emergency water supplier. And they cannot fulfill their legal obligation to be the emergency water supplier if the pipe is broken. So it seemed to me it's RAWA's pipe. RAWA has a duty to provide emergency water supply. RAWA should be maintaining that pipe. Having said all that, it is also true that on a practical level, it is the residents of the borough that are at risk if this water supply is not available. So,
To Mr. Jenks' point, that's exactly what I'm asking you guys, get in contact with Rawa and tie that up. To Chris's point, that's him negotiating with me, he negotiating with Bill. But my point is tie that up, exactly what I'm recommending.
Is there any water flowing through this pipe now?
No,
So it basically sits there.
It sits
unless there's
empty.
an emergency.
It gets dewatered over the winter so that it doesn't
freeze.
Right, but it's something
Isn't that
that
what
you
happened
guys.
to it?
That's
It
exactly
is.
what
It
happened.
wasn't, the valve on the Rawa side leaked and filled it back up?
Well, we're not sure whether it leaked on the Rawa side or the Wyomissing side. So part of this repair was putting 2 new drains on this pipe so that both ends can be drained. So if it's used, you can open up both drains, and we'll go through an SOP to make sure that those drains theoretically should be left open, just in case there's any residual or leaking of those pipes where it wasn't dewatered properly. So we're gonna go through an SOP with Rawa and Jim to make sure that we, don't have this happen again.
Who will do that?
Once again, it'll have to be it's Rawa's pipe, Rawa's drains. Jim will tell you, we have a good working relationship with them, so it'll be a communication. We don't touch their stuff unless we notify them, so that's all stuff that's been covered in the past. But this is a specific situation, I think we need to put an SOP in place specifically for this pipe, with the borough crew and the Rawa distribution.
Okay.
So they want to replace the 17.4 feet that broke,
That is correct.
it was 11,000 a foot.
that seem like the total number? I don't know.
198. Because that was like our number we had when it was originally thought it was our responsibility to cut and pull the entire C900 out and push a whole new C900 across the entire length. So I guess my question is, why do we only do 18 feet? Because back then, I recall everyone in the room saying when they thought the borough was responsible 100%, you have to replace the whole thing. Well, now, nobody even talked to us about the scope of work, and they're asking us to pay a quarter of the price. And we only replaced 18 feet of pipe, which doesn't match what everyone said at this table
That was two
a year
sticks
and a
of
half
pipe, so
ago.
it's 40 feet of pipe is what they replaced, I
What's that?
believe. It's 40 feet of pipe, is what my understanding is. They
Okay.
replaced two sticks.
They replaced the whole pipe, didn't they?
No, two sticks of pipe.
Where was broken?
They videotaped the pipe, inspected the pipe. It was decided that we would just repair what was broken, pressure test, which was done. And the good news is, if something happens again to that pipe, you're gonna reline that pipe. I think that was the case. And you couldn't reline it until you replaced the carrier pipe, meaning the PVC pipes you could actually line. So we chose the cheaper solution, try to get the pipe back in service. And then if there's a problem with it in the future, which is once again why I'm recommending. I'm not saying this is it wasn't 100% replacement repair, it wasn't that at all. It was a partial repair.
So it really comes down to what can you negotiate to stave off the possibility of having to spend more money. If you get 100% reimbursement, so to speak, by the folks who did the work, then it's a one-time $50,000 payment that will go on in perpetuity. You guys have to fix it. There won't be any contribution to go back and do this again.
Once again, I can't speak for my board, and I have two board members in the room now, and once again, however, what I'm saying to you is, it's not fair in my opinion, and not the way I've seen the authority operate for 30 years, since I've been involved in Western boroughs, where we're incurring project costs that specifically reflect on one borough and not the whole system. We do all the repairs on all the combined pipes, but this is specifically for the Wyomissing system. So what I'm saying is I can't speak for future boards, but once again, I'm not saying my board won't pay for it if it breaks again. That'll be a question to be in front of them. But we're saying that, based on the research that we've done, there's a gap in the agreements that covers this pipe, and we're just saying, I would recommend that you clean that up and tie that up, so it happens again, it's very clear. We're not sitting here discussing who's gonna repair it.
It makes sense to have this chat with Wawa before we do anything.
Well, the work's already been done.
Work's done.
Somebody's gotta just pay the bill. But if your question is before the borough pays $50,000, should we see?
I mean, part of me wants to know what's the $50,000 gonna give us, what obligation do we have down the road, 10 years down the
Well,
road?
Nothing. I can tell, from my perspective, nothing. Once again, the $50,000
You and I aren't
is,
gonna be sitting around this table.
no, I understand. The $50,000 is coming to us. That's not going to Rawa, just so you understand that.
I
I'm not giving any money back to Rawa.
I get it.
I got his commitment for half of it. Thank you very much, Bill. We'll talk to you later.
Well,
I mean, just keep in mind, this process went from, we had to pay the whole thing, to the total opposite, we weren't gonna pay anything, to now we're back up to paying $400,000.
Let's be clear. This is a request for us for reimbursement. That's all this is.
Understand what you mean.
There's no bill coming. You decide not to pay me anything, I'll go home and, once again, let the board know that I was unsuccessful to try to get a reimbursement for this. That'll piss off a couple of board members, but, it is what it is.
As to that point, Chip, I mean, to the extent that this could be a water source to the PA American system, isn't it also true that this could flow to West Reading, and even beyond West Reading?
That's correct. So here's the way I look at that, Chris. If I have water coming over the Warren Street bypass bridge, and there's a problem with the Buttonwood Street bridge, for example, that some of this water could flow from the Wyomissing system through the Hill Road connection at the McDonald's into the West Reading system. So the point of this whole thing is all of these systems need to be interconnected in case one has a problem. So you have multiple backup supplies, and you want the water to flow where it needs to go in an emergency. But we realized there was no real way to get water from West Reading's system to this portion of Berkshire Heights because of the pressure gradient issues. So that's why we realized this is kind of an important one to have in service. We can't get water from Shillington at all. You might get water from Shillington into Birdland, for example, but you're not gonna get water from Shillington's connection to this portion of West Reading or Berkshire Heights.
Are the West Reading folks faced with the same question that we're being faced with right now?
Yes.
Just as far as the $50,000?
No. There's a problem with the Buttonwood Street Bridge pipe, is what I'm saying to you. There's a problem with that also.
This is only Wyomissing only.
Correct.
Wyomissing only.
But there's problems with other connections coming across the bridge.
Right, but that's another bridge. It's nothing.
So we can get backup water from West Reading, but not to Berkshire Heights, just to, like,
It's very, it's not a black and white
Right.
answer, there's pressures involved, there's interconnections involved. All I can say with this Topahocken Road, and we've used it in the past, not often, once or twice, that you can get water to 2/3 of the commercial area in Berkshire Heights without too much problem.
It's a good, strong backup supply with plenty of capacity. It's off their big main across the bridge there.
And we have some big commercial properties and stuff here. I get it. I just think we need to button up everything before we make a final decision on what we're gonna do.
Does the water tank in the hills,
That's wrong, that's,
Yeah,
PA American.
PA American.
that's my question.
That's PA there.
A big golf ball.
Perhaps?
Big golf ball.
Yeah, big on.
Yeah. That's
Steve,
PA.
to your point about Rolla, I mean, Chip is saying this should be a project for Wyomissing to discuss with RAWA the long-term maintenance of the pipe. However, I'm not sure that that's necessarily the only way to look at it. The borough relies upon Western Berks as the supplier of water, and this is about the backup supply of water. It's about supply of water, and I certainly believe it is one way to look at this, that it's Western Berks that should be doing what it can to arrange for backup water supply to serve the borough, as well as all the other participating municipalities of the Western Berks system. So I'm not sure it's really the borough's responsibility to go to RAWA to talk about the maintenance of that pipe. I think it may be Western Berks' responsibility.
So let me blow that up, Chris, you don't mind blowing me up a little bit. We had this conversation about consecutive systems, and your PWSID number. Once again, you guys chose not to go down that road with us. If you would have done that, we would have been responsible for that. Because the borough operates their own water system, it's not my responsibility to create your backup supply. So you guys are operating your own water system, your own PWSID number. That is on your permit with RAWA, and Western Berks has nothing to do with that whatsoever. DEP stands for that.
Who gave Western
But that
Berks?
agreement has that you're providing the water to the interconnect, not that interconnect. Not,
My question there is, when the water authority came into being, in one of those agreements, I could be wrong, is that you're supplying the water to Wyomissing Borough, as part of this new system. But you're also responsible for backup water in case your plant or pipe went down. There's no language that in the event of catastrophe that you were responsible for getting us backup water? Or I could have sworn I read that at some point in the past.
If you're talking about the original agreement, is that what you're asking?
yeah.
That original agreement was with the borough, the brand new Western Berks, the plant that wasn't even built yet, and the city of Reading. What Chris was given is, there's been subsequent agreements that really, I think, talk about in the agreements, becoming precedent, taking care of that old agreement and making that old agreement null and void. Now, that being said, you understand that we have continued over the operation of our authority to be partners with the boroughs. We don't look at you and say, the water comes through our tap into your tap, it's your problem, we want to hear anything, see anything. We've continued to operate the fact that we're a partner with the boroughs with all the boroughs, and we operate in a capacity where we're trying to work together on this. So we have verbally talked about, listen, whatever we can do to help this, we're gonna help it, okay? However, that's great that we have verbal commitments and said things, and all I'm saying to you is, I gotta go back and look at the agreements that were put in place, reviewed by the solicitor, signed, and make sure that the agreements are rock solid. If you've got a specific request, want things to be changed or different, you know, Chris can talk to Malin, come back to our board, should talk to Bill and Rawa, and Ed Stock, your solicitor over there, and try to understand truly what you guys wanna see here. This is not take it or leave it, this is just a conversation, we're asking for a slight reimbursement and really tie up the contract language and make it clear moving forward how we're gonna operate. That's all.
And I just like, I agree with Chris that I too feel like there's an implied obligation for Rawa to maintain that pipe. But if we would have continued down the timeline that they had set out, this pipe would still not be fixed. I think part of the cost, part of the escalation of the cost was that we talked them into a timeline to have it done before the end of the year. They had like a 15-day bid period. So I'm with you. We may have paid more for this than it otherwise would have
This
required.
was the government replaced the whole line, right,
Right.
a year and a half ago, they did 40 feet.
So it's fixed. We paid for it. It was an unbudgeted expense on our part. And we're just asking for some relief.
Well, clearly the borough expressed its concern about that line not being usable, especially in light of the work that you are planning at the treatment plant. And the borough is very concerned about potential interruption in water supply. So what you're saying about the borough's position on the timing is correct, and we appreciate what Western Berks did to expedite the project.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind that our biggest fear, and I'll speak for myself, was this wasn't gonna get done when you have your back, when you did your shutdown. Well, that keeps getting pushed out a little bit, which I get, but that was some of the timeline urgency that we had is, you know, I had the vision of a truck, bunch of, 50 trucks driving water from one pit to another pit, and I just didn't need that to happen personally, that was me.
Me either.
Chip, just a clarification of something. And I'm going back to when the water main on State Hill Road was compromised from the earthquake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where did Berkshire Heights get their water from?
Through this pipe.
Through this pipe?
Oh,
that's-
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
All those interconnections were activated.
Okay.
Because what happened was that pipe broke, we drained all of our reservoirs, we had
Right.
no head on the system. So we were down relying on Rawa for that week period of time where that pipe was being repaired.
What scares me about this, I'm not saying we're not gonna give you any money, that's not where I'm going with this, is, okay, now we've set a precedence that one of the three entities that makes up the Western Berks Water Authority is gonna give you X number of dollars because it's a situation where only in an extreme backup would there be a situation where the water's gonna flow to some other community. That all being said, I'm not 100% sure one of our other two partners would sit back and say, yeah, we'll pay $50,000 because it's the authority's challenge to do that, and that kind of scares me. But, just a thought.
I will tell you that this condition does not exist in any of the other Rawa connections. Mainly because all of the Rawa distribution system, let's take Summit Avenue. You come down from Lancaster Avenue, it's Supreme Cleaners there. And the first block is March, second block is Gregg Street. That's the interconnection with Rawa and the spur of Shillington. The Rawa Shillington lines run parallel down that street together. So there's no question that they're gonna repair that main because it's in the road and it's part of their distribution system that's right next door to the Shillington system. The same thing with Park and Evergreen over on your connection there. The Rawa lines and the Wyomissing lines run right next to each other there. So in all these cases, this is not an issue except for this one bridge connection.
How about that?
Buttonwood Street, Bill comes across Buttonwood Street Bridge and then turns and goes down on this side of the river to feed his 18th Ward system, going all the way to Berks.
So he needs that.
He needs that. This is why it's a problem. He doesn't need this pipe. And his initial reaction was, I'm not gonna pay for it, which is why we went to you guys, say, hey, you gotta pay for this. And then I negotiated with him to pay for at least half of it, so.
Any other questions about this before we do something? I'm not able to make a decision on what I want to do yet, so I'm gonna make a recommendation that we table it to the next meeting.
Second.
And in the meantime, Chris should be talking to Bill about trying to work it out.
Well,
Some-
I'm sorry.
Well, if we're not gonna do anything, then nothing's ever gonna happen.
Well,
So-
I agree, I just gotta get my head wrapped around this. What this means down the road, more than the $50,000 today.
Well, you know, if I call and stop, I expect Rawa to say, what are you gonna pay for us to maintain that pipe? And that's why I think this committee and the Borough Council needs to make a decision about whether or not you wanna open that door. Because I think an argument can be made, which I've already talked about, that, you know, it's a supply issue. Now, I understand what Chip is saying about permits, but there's a practical side too about the borough relying upon Western Berks for supply. So I don't wanna call that stock unless this committee and Borough Council have directed me that we are going to open the door to taking some responsibility for that pipe. And I think that's
What
what,
if we don't, we're sitting here and can't do it, we'll never know
well,
what the hell's gonna
but
happen.
I'm gonna ask you to make that decision, not me. Is this committee and council willing to accept some responsibility for the maintenance of that pipe? Because that's what I think is gonna happen if I contact that stop.
That's the reason I just voted to table this for a future
Well,
conversation.
that's, I'm just
Because I don't wanna
responding,
speak for-
I'm responding to Ron's point.
We got a couple council members and a couple new ones coming on.
Take lawyers out of the equation and
You
have.
can't, too many of them here.
Well, taking me out of the equation and have somebody that doesn't have ESQ after the name, say, listen, how about if you give us 20 years worth of no possibility of doing any work on this thing for the $50,000 up front that you want. So in the course of 20 years, we're sitting here talking about $2,500 a year with no problem with doing anything. Plus, we have the water speeches here, we're probably gonna spend $200,000 fixing it.
But that conversation would have to be with Western Berks, not Rawa, because we're not doing Rawa anymore.
Well, we should have it with whoever needs to have it, so we get a resolution without having the lawyers saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's part of the reason I wanted to table it, so we could iron some of these things.
It's already fixed, they follow, so.
I'm not sure what.
They paid
what's going
Rawa,
to
but
be
we can't go
ironed.
to Rawa and say our 50,000 is not for, yeah, after they.
Here's the problem, guys. If that pipe breaks again, you can't repair it, nor can I repair it. It's not our pipe. So we're clear. And Chris, I'll tell you, I've reviewed the service agreement, which is the Bible that was created back when the authority was created. There's no obligation that I'm aware of, and it's multiple pages long, that obligate me to provide you a backup supply to your system. So I can have Malin review that again, but you can have that conversation directly, but I don't think I'm obligated at all, from DEP's perspective or the service agreement to provide you a backup supply. To Matt's point, we've operated over the years, it's been implied. You don't get a bill from Rawa. Rawa bills me for that water and I bill you at my current rate. Even though I pay Rawa more for the money, I take that hit and bill you at the borough rate for the water you use from Rawa. Those are the kind of things, that's not covered anywhere, except that we've done that for years and we're gonna continue to do that service. So there have been implied things that have occurred, but my point is, tie it all up, decide what you wanna do, ask the authority for something, ask Rawa for something, and try to at least limit your future liability.
Now, back to the, we have a motion to second the table is till we get better, not better information, I apologize, that's terribly rude. I thought that was a bad thing. Till we get further information on how we can tie this down and make sure that we can try to figure out how this will work in the future, so. We have a motion and a second to table it for now. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, the ayes carry 2-1. Okay, so now we need to sit down and maybe we'll just get a couple of us together and figure out. Well, I'm not saying we're not gonna give you the 50,000, that's not where I'm going, but I'm not comfortable just writing a blank check and accepting any future problem of something that we can't control. Now, maybe it's because they can't control it, and because the people who own it won't control it, I don't know.
This, we offer to be part of the solution. I know, more than happy to sit down with you and talk through what we think is, I mean, understand, I'm negotiating on your behalf with Rawa, let's be clear. Okay, so it's not like we're a disinterested third party. I'm on your side. So whatever Chris can work out with Bill or with Ed, you know, great. I mean, I'm more than happy to support Chris, and whatever Chris says, I'll say, yes, I agree with Chris, just so you understand.
Well, it sounds like they're not involved, you know, we take Rawa out of the equation altogether, because the issue is between the Borough of Wyomissing and Wawa.
But it's raw as pipe, so.
Yeah, so you
That
can,
doesn't
listen,
concern
I guarantee you, Bill saw you that pipe, you wanna
We're
own the pipe? He'll sell
Chip
it.
is asking us to help them defray their cost and their portion to repair that pipe,
That's it.
right?
That's my
in a
simple,
nutshell,
that is my
exactly
simple
what it
request.
is.
Bill will sell you the pipe, I'm sure, Chris.
Do you have any willingness, or would Western Berks have any willingness to be the party that guarantees the maintenance of that pipe?
As I said before, I have no problem taking that request, once again, to my board and asking that question. This is unique baby here, there's nowhere else like this that I'm aware of.
I don't wanna see us, you know, we give the money now without any verbiage, and let's say something happens to that pipe 10 years down the road. Well, Wyomissing did it before, therefore they can give us money again.
That's the reason.
How long's, we only repaired 40 feet of the pipe, right?
Correct.
How long's the pipe?
The Warren Street Bypass Bridge, so if you go across the bridge on the Warren Street Bypass, I don't know, it's
So we,
300 yards.
so we repaired like 12% of the pipe,
That's correct.
so there's still,
That pipe is fairly new.
78%.
Well, there's plenty of life on that pipe. The concern that some of that was voiced in the beginning, which was what Jim is pointing to, if that pipe froze, it broke at the weakest point. So the question is, were there any other stress fractures that didn't completely break in that pipe that could break again? Well, hopefully not if it doesn't freeze again. So that's why we put the extra drains in. So that pipe, once again, if it passed the hour pressure test at 100 PSI, we're pretty sure that there's no other cracks are ready to blow on that pipe. So C900 pipe is fairly thick.
Does Western Berks participate in the inspection of the valve at the north side, or I don't know, which is on the Reading side, where the valve is located? You don't.
We
But
do.
does RAWA participate in your inspections on the Wyomissing site where the meter pit is located and the valves are located? No? No, so you each do your own maintenance inspections, because really, that's where the risk is for damage to this pipe, is that one or the other party is not maintaining those valves and the meter pit.
So we should be.
If it's fixed now and it broke today, who would fix it?
I don't
We'd be
think-
having the same conversation.
We don't have any idea, because we haven't figured out.
We'd have,
first.
right.
That's why I'm saying we need to resolve this. We have the same conversation, it's a broken record.
So you actually have two things, you have the payment of $50,000 and the long-term O&M of this pipe.
Correct.
That's really the two issues.
Right.
And they are
Two
separate.
issues.
To Chris's point, they are
Yeah, they
separate
are.
issues.
Right.
and what's
Yeah.
Rawa's motivation to maintain their side of the drainage and really keep a close eye on it if that pipe does absolutely nothing for them? Like accidentally overlook, making sure their side's open and.
That's why, that would be covered in an agreement. That's the kind of stuff where, you know, if something happens again, was it the Wyomissing valve that leaked or the Rawa valve? We don't know.
Well,
But the
if
point
you
is-
guys came in here and said, hey, I'd like you to pay $50,000 for this. You don't have to worry about this again. We'll take care of it for
Yep,
50 years.
yep.
and then we'd have to say.
Different
So once again, if you're officially, you got two board members here, if you're officially making that request to have me buy the line from Bill, make the request. I'll buy the line from Bill.
I mean, since we can't figure it out, if you came in here and said that, then we'd have to say, well, they just made us an offer, give them 50 grand, and they'll fix this in perpetuity or 25 years, pick a number, and then he says yes, she says yes, he says yes, we can all go home and have dinner. Somebody has to make a move here. It sounds like you can make a move faster than we can.
To Chris's point, he's right, he's gonna open up a can of worms that calls that stock. I
Of
agree.
course, because two lawyers can't help it.
I agree.
Talking.
Then they're gonna make a real project.
Well, I agree, I want to get out of here. So,
You can buy a pipe for
$1.
$1.
Oh, yeah, I'm not paying it for it.
Well, it's gonna be $1.
He's gonna give it to me.
I get it.
If I ask for it, he's gonna give it to me.
But then at least there's some controls over the maintenance of the damn thing at some point, that we
I'm with
have
you.
some government agreement with to do, not just open Bill Murray.
But what happens is, I think if we end up buying the pipe, then you're gonna be covered under the current agreement. Because that covers the meter pit. And now we're taking responsibility for the pipe that feeds the meter
Yeah,
pit.
basically shifting the interconnection.
You're shifting the interconnection to that side of
Across
the
the
bridge instead of
river,
our side.
right.
So that probably, for your guys' perspective and our perspective, as long as you're taking a responsibility for that, you know, doesn't matter to me. I mean, but once again, you got two votes in Wyomissing here, you gotta convince
Well, the difference
two or
is.
three other people from Fight Shewing to.
The difference is if you own it versus Rahway, it's gonna be a lot easier to get it repaired.
Correct, absolutely correct.
It's just the dialogue is a lot more open on a regular basis.
So
between
what
the
comes with
parties.
this, there's a caveat, there's a bridge occupancy permit for this pipe. So you just can't hang a pipe on the side of a bridge with DEP, with PennDOT. So there's an occupancy permit, it's gonna be a yearly cost to keep that permit involved with this.
The license, the
The
bridge
license,
occupancy
yeah.
license.
So it might make sense for you guys to own the pipe, to be honest with you. Because it would be a section of pipe I own between
Sorry to hear that.
Rawa and Wyomissing where I don't have any control, but we'll work through that.
I don't want someone owning the pipe that we have no control over, that we're the only people who are gonna be financially responsible for with you folks. I just don't picture turning off the water when it gets really cold, or not trying very hard. Sorry.
So thinking through it, we'd probably make it sense for, it's an extension of your distribution.
So
So
we
we might take
we
financial
elected
responsibility.
to table it for now, it's not a permanent table. We'll have a little bit more discussion, but if you can have, we have to make a motion for him to talk about what the ramifications of that would be.
I don't think so.
You
You give me
That's
direction.
that's
You give me direction, that's fine, so I do.
Well, if you're ready to ask him for that, you can make a motion. If you're not ready to ask him to take that back, I mean, if you're ready to ask Western Berks to acquire and maintain that pipe, or at least consider that, I mean, this would be a time you
And
could,
outline what the ramifications are for the borough if that happens.
you could.
Is that,
Maybe you
I'm
could
sorry,
ask
is that
him.
versus the borough owning the pipe? I just think it's
Well,
consistent
there's
with,
three options here. Someone owns the pipe, right? So it's either Rawa,
Right.
us.
Somebody other than Rawa.
Right.
I mean, given past history, the borough made it clear that the borough wanted to own its own distribution system. That's why I think the borough should, if anybody's gonna own this pipe, maybe it should be the borough and not Western Berks.
No, I can't. Then I really am prepared for the conversation, to be honest with you. So,
Because right now we buy that water from you, you buy it from Rahway, so that would change. We'd be buying it from Rahway.
No, you don't want to.
Right, that's why we don't wanna,
Like-
that's why we don't wanna own this pipe.
That can all be covered in agreement. We probably should document that too. All right, any other questions for me before I hold up your meeting any longer?
No, we talked too long, so you're out of here.
got out.
thank you.
Thanks, Chip.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
Sanitary sewer, and there, construction still ongoing.
We need a time extension, change order to extend the time of completion of the Berks pump station till February 29th, 2024.
Okay, I'll make that motion that we extend the time frame.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It's extended to February 29th, 2024. Spring Township Interceptor, anything there?
Nope.
Okay, nothing with the cleaning repairs at this point?
Nope.
Streets, street improvements, survey is complete, design is ongoing.
Yep.
all this other PennDOT stuff is, go ahead, Michelle.
Just an update that they did reach out about setting up a public officials and then public input meeting in April of 2024.
Right down here, can't wait for those. Alright, Cambridge Avenue Culvert, pedestrian bridge, anything new there, we have. it's
We're
already
waiting
been
for
awarded.
PennDOT to approve the structural stop drawings to release, so CMS can start the replacements.
Okay. Admin and police department study, I assume that's kind of dead for now.
I was
Alright.
tabling that until 2024 when we
Makes
think
sense. Public Works Garage, we know what the contract's about, so now we have a payment application from Bolton Construction has been received for the price of $266,997.57. Now, before I make this motion, are we paying for it, or we're using the short-term line, right?
Well,
I vote on that.
My understanding, we're using that short-term, we're using the Thompson at 2.95%.
So we're using the short-term line, whatever.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So we need a motion and we need a motion to pay the amount I just said, $226,997.57 from the 66, okay, that number, 67 cents, out of the short-term line.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and I will abstain because I work for Tompkins Financial. All, did I say all those in favor?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I abstain. Okay, you guys carry.
Before we move off the garage, I just for general knowledge, I'd like to let you know about some change. You gave us, Michelle and I, the ability to do change orders up to $50,000, and there have been some. We had to build a temporary salt storage facility because they had to tear down the existing salt shed. That was $11,000. We had to change the color of the overhead doors, trim that was added is $500. The sanitary sewer lateral, there was some conflict with the storm sewer line, had to get moved to the tune of $1,761. So no big shakes there, but upcoming, there was some, they got down to grade with the floor grade of the new garage, and the soil was, they call it unacceptable, soft.
Unsuitable.
And they had to remove approximately 2 feet of soil and replace that with 2 feet of stone. We'll probably know within a week what that cost is.
Okay. Progress though, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have any discussion on the fast bridge fiber?
No, let's just stay on there until they're done in case anything.
They did hit a sewer lateral on Far Road, and they did hire a contractor. Fastbridge hired a contractor to come out and fix it, so it's good.
Are they done working for the winter, or are they, you know,
No, they're not done.
they're not done?
Go figure, I think I had a shitty day with that.
There's nothing new to add to the Stonehouse Park project?
I mean, you as the
Yep.
committee and ultimately council need to decide what you're doing with the parking lot, but outside of that, no.
Okay. Anybody have any input? Come on, we
I'm
can't
not
do
sure I
this and then.
understand what that means. How are we supposed to?
I had brought up that we explore maybe reducing it from.
We haven't done that yet, but we can do that, is what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
and, you know, I asked Michelle to talk to Jim about 6 spots, having 3 ADA and 3 regular parking spots. And,
Does it jeopardize our funding?
No.
no,
Does it still allow you to have a sort of a jug handle where it's in one way and out the other?
Yes,
Is it a complete waste of time?
it's a waste of paving, because you're doing paving, if you drive out with those spaces, that's a year end of the decision. The loop they drew has to be there for grade to work, so where the driveway comes in and the driveway exits are already,
It's the same side whether you put 12 spots in.
it's the same size as the
or
horseshoe, whether you have 1 or 13 parking spaces on it.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you could make 3 or 4 of, if you decide to keep the 12 spaces, you could make 3 or 4 of them ADA and balance not ADA, but I think the point besides creating ADA parking was also dedicated off-street parking for people running the stone house.
So are they perpendicular to the stone house or?
so it's kind of an arc.
Yeah, yeah, that's getting it schematic.
Gotta go. I flew the car.
Okay, that's the way it's gonna be, right?
That's what,
Proposed.
that's what it was called for when the architectural park study went into the grant.
So Jim's point is whether you put 1 space here or keep it as is, this has to stay the same size.
If you make it perpendicular to the curb,
It's not ADA compliant anymore.
it's not.
How about if you eliminate it all entirely?
Then we're gonna lose our grant funding. You can't do this project and not put ADA parking there.
You must have
Yes.
ADA parking. Not necessarily how many, but you must have some.
Well, the building code's gonna dictate how many.
Okay.
So explain to me what the red dotted lines are.
What's the project? Is it parking? Is that the project?
Project's ADA accessibility
For
for
the
the
entire
park,
park.
with the whole park system. That's why you get the grant.
So we still have to have a macadam parking lot that size regardless of how many parking spaces we have.
The driveway, the curb,
Driveway
the 2
to
curb
access
cuts
is-
on Parkside Drive North need to be in those locations.
But we could eliminate those first parking spots right there underneath your arrow.
Why would you do that?
I mean,
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be devil's advocate myself.
What's the dot in between the 2 groups of
there are
this?
trees on the landscape islands. The little black dots.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all trees.
And how far does this go down on that hill? Does it get to the bottom? I guess I don't understand.
So-
You walk from the street to
About-
where the hill starts going down,
About
which is about
54 feet out from the existing edge of paving on Parkside Drive North would be the furthest. If you went parallel to that, Red Door Michelle's, that's probably about 54, 55 feet. Right to there.
I mean, you can see it doesn't come flush with the closest point of the stone house building,
correct.
if that helps for kind of placing
Perspective,
it.
yeah.
And then that blue lane is the walkway for the handicap to come down into the,
Well, that's the existing gravel path
that's
that's,
the existing.
that's going to be everything here in, on the side.
So is the green slide or what's the green that comes down from the
I
street?
think green designates right now, it's not paved.
Yeah, it's crushed stone
Crushed stone,
paving
yeah.
that'll be replaced with asphalt paving.
The blues
So
asphalt.
that gravel path is there now.
Correct.
It's going to be replaced with asphalt paving.
Okay.
But your swirl from the parking spots, that that's what's getting you over to the stone house.
This,
The wiggly blue
Yeah.
line.
Yeah, that like
Oh,
from the
this,
from the
here,
parking
yes,
space to the
yes,
stone house,
that's what's gonna get you
Yeah,
down.
that's what's gonna get you over to the stone house.
Right, that's the new, that, you have to do all those loops to get enough distance to get
To get the
accessible grade
spreads,
down there.
Yeah, great.
Explain to me where the wheelchairs come from and how they get down the hill.
So they park here,
Yeah.
and then if they're going to the stone house, they're either gonna get down here.
In the existing walkway,
No, that's all gonna be re-
Yeah,
down.
that's all I'm saying.
but you still have the incline, can't eliminate the incline.
It's gonna look
That's
zigzag.
why you have to go,
So the
that's why
new-
you just
There's
switch
an
back.
existing blacktop path that does the same thing, that would fly, and this, because apparently it doesn't,
It's too
the
steep.
grades are too steep. And it'll be replaced with this one that'll basically duplicate it with some finesse that it'll meet those grades.
Right, is all that,
Like that.
everyone else, but is all that for sure, that you put a wheelchair up there and you have to switch back all the way down to get to the ground level and
Yes.
somehow.
Yes.
Yes.
And you can go back up the same way
Yes.
without having anybody.
8.3%.
Have you tried it?
Incline.
I didn't try it,
You
that's
don't have
what
to
it
try it.
is,
It's a-
That's
it's a
the
fe-
law.
It's a federal law.
what the numbers say.
Well, I know, but you still have, you can't tell somebody, hey, listen, buddy, you gotta get the hell up there, because the law says you should be able to go that way. Can you really
8.3%.
do it?
That's
can you
what-
do it?
That's
I
know
what
the
they
law says.
determined, that's the number.
Well, I see the guy down the hill from our old office going up to Van Reed Hill, which is like 17%.
All right, I'm just saying, it's really what it's gonna
That's
come
the
down to,
state
is
law.
you have a lot of wheelchairs up there,
8.3.
and they come flying down the shush.
That's how low.
We could have that anywhere.
Right,
It's
we
worse.
don't have any wheelchairs going down there now.
Because as you can see.
Yes.
Yes, we do. Sure, they were down there for
Yeah.
the lighting of the green.
People are pushing it, they're not
No,
saying, "Here's your
I mean, Chris Cake uses that all the time.
What is the dotted orange thing again?
Where,
That's the work limit of that phase, isn't it? The dash.
It's just showing.
yes, this is one page from a 20-page original.
This is
plan.
just, inside of that was showing what was phase one. The project is all the phases.
And then I want to ask one last question. There's no way to make this parking lot get closer to where that street cut already is, up closer to the tennis courts.
No.
too
It doesn't
steep
make
in
it
there.
accessible for the building is what I'm gonna hear.
Well, then
No,
it's
and
too
your
far
grade-
from the building,
It's that and your grade is,
steeper,
yeah, your topo changes more down here.
and the road is steeper up there too.
I mean, it goes back to, there's a reason the consultants that
Does
did
this
this
committee
plan
wanna
designed it the way that they did.
Change the plans, make a recommendation. All we're doing is making a recommendation to council to change the
Sorry,
plans, if you
sorry.
want to change the plans. I can see that we would need to still do the street cut. It doesn't save probably the sledding that everybody's talking about.
If it's a busy day, that whole side of the street is filled with cars. So whoever's across the street can't see past the cars. This is no different. If it's a busy day, the whole parking lot's full of cars, they're still gonna see cars. People aren't just, the neighbors were complaining, people are just gonna park there because there's a parking lot. That's, I mean,
Yeah, I don't see anybody parking there other than an event.
You could put restriction.
yeah, it's
And
not
there's park-
easier to park there than it is on the other side.
And the parking spaces in the off-street lot are gonna be lower in grade than the street,
So if anything, it's gonna be a
It's gonna
little
look better.
you know?
set down. And we had already agreed to put landscaping, low-level landscaping to block lakes and other things and to aesthetically pretty it up.
So are we proposing to reduce the number to 6, is that what you suggested?
That was my original suggestion, but, you know, given the fact that the parking lot itself has to remain the same, maybe it's not worthwhile to do that.
Make an argument, increase it. You're gonna have the openings to either side, but now you wanna make it more.
Well, it's designed right, it is designed right now for 12, I wouldn't wanna make it any bigger.
That's still not probably.
Right. Want to extend it out.
Okay, does anybody want to make a recommendation to reduce the scope of this project? We know we have backlash coming. Okay, hearing none, we're gonna proceed as is. Discussion?
And this goes out next month, out the bid.
Well, before we had all these delays, it did. I mean, we've been 2-month delay waiting for this parking lot answer. Basically, right?
As long as the next
6
council
weeks.
doesn't change its mind, I mean, that's the reality of it.
Right.
Well, what's the reality
I don't
if
think they
we're
will.
not gonna run into a 4th of July problem with this project since it's being
I
bid?
think we made notes in the
Yeah.
bid
In
document.
all of our bid projects for everything, we have 4th of July criteria. So that nothing is anywhere near the parks where parade route has to be restored, a week prior to that, and they can't get back in there.
There's
till the
other
week
parts
after.
of the project that are west of here, the trails, like that work they can do, they just can't be at the Stonehouse. around the corner.
Did council kick this back to you? Or
No, I don't
where
think so. I don't
where
think
does
so.
council stand on this thing?
In terms of what?
We didn't kick this back to infrastructure,
Three.
did we?
Yeah, you did it last
We
week's
did.
council meeting.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember.
So this is kicking it back, saying they're not making a change.
Yeah.
Okay. So then next month, we can vote on it and say,
It's over.
it's
Well,
over, go ahead.
I mean, I don't think you need to vote on anything,
We
because you're
already
not
did it,
changing
it's already
anything.
been voted.
There's, so the
Already-
next step
we
is it
voted
goes
to
out
do
to
this a long
bid
time ago.
when
I worked
McCarthy's
this on-
office is done putting the bids back together, and then you would accept the little bid.
As soon as possible.
Okay. Do we have to talk anything about the RP for the parkland study?
Just an update that after the project being awarded last week, I contacted Florida Teeter and Berks Nature to let them know, and we'll be setting up a meeting for Greg, Jim, myself, and Dwayne to lead the Parks Department in early January to kick the project off.
Sewage capacity conveyance fee, we already discussed this at nauseam, didn't we?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
2,200.
Yeah. So nothing to be done for there. The emergency routine maintenance repairs, replacements, Jim, I assume this is the same thing we do
Same
every
thing
year?
we do every 2 or 4 years, I forget how long it lasts, we piggyback on
Piggyback
spring
on
township.
spring, it
bids.
saves us some money, saves us some money, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion that, we recommend the council to partner with Spring Township on the 2024 emergency road maintenance contract.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, all those in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. It's easy count today. Hearing, is there anything else that needs to be discussed, or we can't even bring up anymore anyway, right? Okay, so I'll make a motion that we, get out of here. You took it right out of my hand.
My purse.